Welcome to the newest edition of the Giants Huddle podcast, brought to you by Citizens, the official bank of the New York Football Giants. I'm John Schmeelk. Today's guest, I'm very excited for this one because I'm a regular listener to his show, the Athletic Football Podcast, and he is Nate Tice, also writes for Yahoo Sports. He's with Robert Mays on the Athletic Football Show, does a fantastic job. I'm checking the bingo card here, Nate. I've had Robert on. I've had Dane on since he was publishing The Beast independently, and we're going to have him on once they let him out of his dungeon and The Beast is out in a week.
I think he comes out today.
Does he come out today officially?
I think he sees daylight today. I think today is the day.
Good for him. So now I get to check off Nate Tice, and I'm going to try to get Diana on at some point before the draft. So really appreciate it, man. How's life?
Life's good. The infinity gauntlet of athletic analysts. Yeah, not the athletic analyst, not athletic analyst, because I was tall. I am tall. I'm not athletic, but it's good enough to be a quarterback, I guess, as we see across the league sometimes. No, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on. We went over some of the subject matter before we were talking about the show, so I'm very excited about what we're about to talk about today, and I'm sure everyone listening will find out, and it's not probably what they're expecting. So no, but very fired up to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Yes, we like to dig deep here. I know you guys like to do that on the Athletic Football Show as well. And again, folks, if you want to learn about the league, and I've learned a lot of X's and O's from you as well. For the folks that don't know Nate's background, besides what he does in the media, used to be a quality control assistant quarterbacks coach, former college quarterback at Wisconsin. So a wealth of knowledge here. We want to dive into your knowledge of those two positions and a bunch of others here, Nate. So I'm going to let you play your greatest hits first. Tell me why Drake May is your 1A quarterback.
I gladly do so. He is. I keep trying to avoid this word, and the word is prototype, because prototype to me looks like Cam Newton. Not so much playing style, but what they look like. But Drake May is the combination that the elite guys in the NFL, elite quarterbacks in the NFL look like and play like. Is he a perfect prospect at this time? Is he a finished project? No, but he has the potential and the upside to get there. And what that is strong arm, creative arm. So it's not just a big howitzer throwing through a wall. It's actually being able to throw a looping liner over a linebacker. It's able to maybe throw a little sidearm. He has throws that he throws left-handed, if you're into that, if you're into a little ambidextrous quarterback play. But he has that creativity, that arm strength, that arm talent. I think he actually has well above the baseline of accuracy. I know there's been some qualms with his footwork, but I think that's very fixable. And also, my argument's been, if that's a qualm for you and he's doing all this, all right, that's pretty cool, isn't it? But it's that combination of the arm talent, everything, but it's the mindset that comes with it. There's quarterbacks that can throw far, but they won't use it. May is the opposite. May almost has to be harnessed in. He wants to push the ball. He goes for the doubles if the doubles are there, instead of just taking singles. And on high-low concepts where he has two options, he would rather take that high option that might be a little more difficult because he can accomplish it, rather than take the safer low option. He's creating a lot of hidden yards, and he does that with his legs too. I think he's been a very underrated athlete. I think some people are catching up to it. I think he's faster than Caleb Williams. I think he's just as good of a scrambler as Jane Daniels, and probably going to have a more translatable scramble style than Jane Daniels because of his size, because he's smarter about taking hits, those types of things. And he's smarter about when he takes off, and he throws when he moves in the pocket as opposed to just scrambling. So can't tell. I really like him. I like him, and I like Caleb Williams. You said 1A. I truly think it's a 1A, 1B. And I really like Caleb too. It's not like I'm trying to knock him. I just think May has all these size traits and throwing traits and mindset traits because of toughness, and also things like he handles protections and pre-snap stuff, which is a big check mark for me, because that means coaches trust him already as a redshirt sophomore, which again translates easier to the NFL, even if the offense doesn't totally do so. There's a lot to like. I've been throwing up my hands a little bit, where I'm like, why is it? I feel like the John Travolta meme, where I'm like looking around the room, like, am I going to be the only one that likes this guy? Like, other people like him, and I think there's a little bit of some league negging going on, like a bad pickup artist, where they're going, yeah. Let's talk about Daniels, because they don't want to talk about May, because they don't want to build up that hype a little bit. That's my theory, anyways, because he does a lot of things that these upper echelon quarterbacks do, and I think he could reach that potential.
Yeah, the reason I have Williams ahead of him for me is just I think he's a more accurate thrower. To your point, I think May's a little scatter shot, and I think that can be fixed. I agree. I'm not worried about it, but that's why my order might be a little bit different. All right, just real quick on the other two guys I want to touch on, because the Giants could be in the mix here if one of these guys drop. Maybe they trade up. Who knows? You're not as high on Jaden Daniels. Tell us
Yeah.
why. And then we can make this a two-parter, I suppose.
Yeah.
JJ McCarthy, and this is probably a longer question. So why don't you answer the Jaden Daniels ones first, and then I'll
Yeah.
reload on McCarthy for you.
Okay. I'll start off in saying is that just these two, I consider these two more in the same tier than the other two, being May and Williams. I have a late first round, early second round grade on Daniels and technically McCarthy. And those guys, this is just me in schematics. It matters to nobody else but me that I say that. But usually quarterbacks get a half grade inflation. So if you have a late first, he might go 12, he might go 14,
Right.
he might go 10, or if you really like him, might go top 10. That can be a little rich. And usually when a guy has a late first grade or early second grade, it's because they have some deficiencies or some things that you have some concerns. So starting with Daniels he's kind of dropped for me as I watched him more and more. I liked him a little bit actually at Arizona State. Funnily enough, I can find a tweet where I did like him. Then I forgot about him for about a couple of years because I didn't think he was much. He would have been, he looks like a day 3 guy. He ascended throughout this year. Great situation, everything, but he did operate it really well. He's accurate. He understands the offense, which I would hope he would because he has fit more than 50 starts in college. I think he understands when to get the ball off, where the eyes to go to get that ball off. He could throw guys open on the outside as well with ball placement. He's willing to push the ball when he sees a clean look. And of course, he's a very good athlete and he can roll. That's the number one thing you stand out. As I've watched more of him, I started having more concerns. I think some people have taken some of these concerns and ran with them, but the ones that I would bring up is he doesn't work over the middle, and why that is a concern for me. He does do it, and this is the thing; it's a denominator thing. It's the best quarterbacks I have found do it a dozen-ish times a game, 8 times a game, give or take, but they complete maybe 6 of them. Other quarterbacks will do it, but they maybe only attempt 1 or 2 a game. And why that matters is you're giving up a lot of opportunities over the middle of the field, a lot of opportunities for yards after catch. Defenses can change how they play if they're not worried about the stuff over the middle. It just you have to do a lot of other things well to overcome that. And why throwing over the middle matters is anticipation. It shows arm strength. It shows arm understanding how to throw a guy open into a spot, beating a zone, beating a tight man coverage. But there's a lot to come away from that. Daniels, even last year, or Arizona State, or even his first year at LSU, he's never thrown over the middle. Doesn't matter what the offensive situation is, doesn't matter what the offensive play caller is. And that is concerning to me because the guys that have succeeded and that haven't thrown over the middle are the Jalen Hurtses of the world. The Dana Jones is actually one of them. Justin Fields, Russell Wilson. So you have some, yeah, they've succeeded, but we've also seen some negatives with all those players. Hurts last year, he started falling off because he wasn't running the ball. And when he doesn't run the ball and he doesn't throw over the middle, it becomes a lot of ISO ball on the outside. How many? We hate 90s NBA basketball, right? I'm gonna. Oh, well, maybe not Knicks
I
fans.
grew up on 90s NBA
Maybe not
basketball.
Knicks fans.
I lived on the Knicks beating or getting beat by Jordan, but trying to beat the hell out of Jordan
Yes,
and failing.
so maybe this is the worst place to use this analogy, but it's ISO ball. It's ISO Joe Johnson ball. It's that ISO 18-footer over and over like that. This is the football equivalent of that. Yes, it can work, but you need dudes on the outside to do it. And
which he had, by the way.
Which he had. He had 2 first-round picks. One's going to go top 10, one might go top 15. Like, and 2 offensive linemen, 1 tackle might be a first-rounder next year. A really good situation. And that's the thing. I don't want to knock him completely and go, like, he didn't do anything with it. He was operating it well. It's just that I think he had a lot of easy buttons. And there's a lot of stuff where he's not a creative thrower. He's fast and he's athletic, but there's different types of athleticism. He's very straight line. The Lamar Jackson comparisons are so not right for me because Jackson's so creative, such a creative runner, doesn't take hits.
Daniels is a runner, not a scrambler. He's a straight ahead 40 guy. He's not a side to side guy. 100% agree. And by the way, early in his career too, he wasn't good at avoiding the rush. He would run into sacks like all the time. He got better as the year went along. But if you watch the first few games of this year, like Drake May was so much better at avoiding sacks than Daniels. It wasn't even close.
And that's the thing too, is that the size concerns is if you're going to be a runner. So like Hurts and Fields are actually decent comparisons for Daniels. How big are Hurts and Fields? 230. And I would say Fields is faster. Hurts is a little slower, but he's a strong runner. And it's just that's why this play style to me has a lot of red flags. It's situation dependent. It's also can be very volatile. It can have super highs where he's just peppering things under the middle, hits a couple of big plays, runs and scrambles, all that, creates some big plays, but it can just have a lot of lulls if that's not working for you or you don't have matchup advantages. So, and another thing, the last thing I kind of have my negative with him, and again, this is throughout my process. I was watching a film that I looked into the numbers with it. The only quarterback that didn't throw over the only first 2-round quarterback drafted in the first 2 rounds that threw the ball less over the middle in the last 5 years was Justin Fields, coming out of college. And everyone that had low rates, it stayed sticky to the pros. It did not get better. Guys only got worse as they got into the NFL. It has never improved in the NFL. That is why I harp on this. The other thing too is, and talking about lack of creativity, he looks to scramble all the time. And that's when you watch him or you look in the numbers, if he is moved off his spot, he gets pressured, he is looking to scramble half the time, nearly 50% of the time. Okay, what does that number mean? That is just ridiculously high. Most guys are like in the 20%. And again, that's scary to me. You're scrambling, not looking to throw. You're looking to run at such a skinny frame, all these types of things. He takes a decent amount of sacks when he does get pressured, a good amount, I should say. And that's the last thing. Sorry, I didn't know this goes so long, but now I'm just thinking all my points here. Let's get them all off on the table. The last one is he'll throw over the top, but he doesn't push the ball a lot of times. When I talked about that high-low stuff with May, Daniels takes a lot of lows. And that's fine. You can make a living making 4 or 5-yard games, nickel and diming. But if you're a negative play merchant as far as sacks, 1 sack and it's a 2nd and 20, well, the drive's dead because that guy is not eating up the yards with his arm. He can't get those big chunks to get that first down back. So that it's just a combination of all these things that has to be concerned about Daniels.
Not fair enough. And by the way,
Yeah.
folks, if you want to go watch some over the middle tight window throws, just watch Drake May against Georgia Tech. I think you have more throws in that one game, tight over the middle stuff. And look, Daniels has some deep digs over the middle late in the year, but it's stuff when the middle is cleared out and there's no traffic in there, so the decision's a lot easier.
And it's a step late. It's a lot of like it's hard because Daniels. I don't want to ding him because his eyes get to the right spot, but it's always just that it's like a hair late, it's like just like 1 hitch late, just a count late. Works in college when you have Neighbors and Brian Thomas, excuse me,
and a great line.
What if you don't have that protection? What if you have, I would just say above average arm strength? I would say even like a Daniel Jones probably has more arm strength than Jane Daniels, which I'm sure some people go, what? It's like, no, he does.
No, he does.
So if what arm strength does, it gives you room for error. So if you are a half second late in the NFL, that window is closed, not even tight, it's closed. So again, there's just a lot of warning signs. Can he overcome these? Yeah, sure. It's just that he's a guy with a lot of starts. He's playing a lot of good offensive ecosystems. And now we're going to talk about him going top 5, going to a place where he has to be the dude. And that is kind of just a little concerning for me.
Yeah, now I have Daniels a tier below the top 2, but I do have him a tier above McCarthy, who I like, by the way. I think he's going to be a successful NFL quarterback. I guess my question that I've been asking myself and Giant fans when they say you have to draft a quarterback no matter what is that does McCarthy have that top 8 upside that is enough of an upgrade over what's already in the building? Again, Daniel Jones's health is another issue that we don't know about. You just don't know what the future is with that, where it's worth taking the 6th overall pick ahead of one of these other top 3 wide receivers, which we'll get to in a second. Does he have in your mind that upside where he can become one of these guys that can put the team on your back, like the Herberts, like the Burrows and that group eventually? Does he have that in him, do you think?
I think his upside is more of a Kirk Cousins and maybe a better athlete, a more athletic Cousins, which is interesting. I think his upside, you said top 8. I think his upside is like 8th. So that's funny you said that. So yeah, kind of. But like I think his upside is that 8 to 12 range quarterback. In a good year, they can maybe make a Pro Bowl.
Cousins, Dak, Goff, that group, right?
That tier. Yeah. Yep. Like Dak is the best of that tier. Right. So do I think McCarthy could be better than Dak? That's tough. Yeah, that's tough for me to picture. And I break down quarterbacks and a lot of players, and I stole this from a basketball blog. Luckily, he was a good guy to steal from. He works for the Nuggets now, so it wasn't a total idiot that I stole this from. But he would break down prospects, and he would go star, starter, bench, or bust, and he would just have a percentage tier for each one. So like Stroud last year was a great example of this, where it was like I really liked him, but it was like his star tier was like 10%. But I was like, hey, his starter tier is like 70%. It's like I do not see this guy busting, but I'm not sure what his upside is. Turns out Might have been about 50% star. But it's just that tier threshold where Anthony Richardson, it's like, oh, his star is like 30%, his starter might be 20%, but his bust might be 30% as well. When I watch a guy like McCarthy, I don't really see bust, but I don't really see a lot of star. So it's like a 5% star, a 5% bust, but just a big chunk in the middle of starter and bench, meaning a high end backup spot starter type, a Jacoby Brissett type guy, something like that. So that McCarthy to me though, he's him and going this process. If you told me that I'd have Daniels McCarthy closer and closer, I'd be like, yeah, right. But after you watch him, and you have to watch every freaking game of McCarthy because he barely throws the ball, and he grows on you. It's a lot of stuff that translates, and I hate it because I try to fight it. And I was like, I'm not going to listen to these guys. I'm gonna watch them. Whatever. I'm sure I hate him. I watched games throughout the season. I was like, whatever. He's a second, third round or whatever. And you watch him, and you're like, okay, I kind of get it now. I get this. It's like listening to some band that you're like, okay, fine, yeah, there's some good songs on that album. He throws the crap out of the ball over the middle. He pushes the ball. He's good.
Crossers, he's so accurate on crossers.
So
he's
accurate.
So good at it.
He's got a ton of arm zip. Like he's got good arm strength, and I put it in the good to maybe even very good tier. He is willing to push the ball. He operates all the pre-snap stuff really well already. He's very advanced because Harbaugh put it all on his plate. And he's young. I don't believe the weight all the way that he had at the combine, but his frame to grow is a little better than Daniels because of youth and because just, maybe you can get to 210. I have a ton of concerns with quarterbacks sub 205, which is another thing about Daniels.
And by the way, that was going to be my follow-up. Why is quarterback weight so important to you? That was going to be my last quarterback question. So hit it now.
Well, yeah, let's do it now. It's not just durability, it's operating in the pocket, and it's just coming out of the defender's grasp. It's a lot of stuff. If you watch the top tier guys, Josh Allen kind of is hard to compare anyone to, but even a Burrow is kind of like, or even a Dak. Those guys I feel like are more realistic.
Go back to Roethlisberger, right? If you want to go.
Big Ben, McNabb. Shoot, I mean, it's Culpepper. You can do all these guys. Eli, even. It is when you're in the pocket and you get grabbed. If you're sub 210, sub 205, it becomes just really easy for those guys to just pull you down or just not let you get away. You watch a lot of these top quarterbacks, they're moving in these tight pockets and there's defenders and stuff just happening all around. We don't really see that all the time because of the sideline angle. Yep. So you just have to get through that. It's all about sack mitigation and creating a play, even if it's a neutral play, like throwing the ball away, throwing to someone's feet. This is what Tom Brady was a master of. You're not taking those negative drive ending plays and just being neutral. Having size lets you do that because then you're able to pull out that grass. You're able to have some durability through these 300-pounders, 290-pounders. You don't have a guard bumping into your lap and getting knocked back onto your butt. As a guard bumps you and it's like, okay, shoot. All right, I got to keep moving in the pocket. So that's where the size stuff, and there's proof in the pudding. I mean, there's barely any quarterbacks sub 205 that have succeeded. Kirk Cousins is one in modern times, and the other is Jeff Garcia. And it's basically about that since the year 2000. That's it. It's not a lot of success stories for quarterbacks sub 205.
You love turf. You're good at it. So you start a turf biz. Business grows, your savings grow. Become the most celebrated name in turf. Are you ready for all that life brings?
Giants Huddle Podcast is brought to you by Citizens, the official bank of the Giants. From game day to every day, Citizens is made ready for Giants fans with insights, guidance, and solutions. Learn more at citizensbank.com. Joined by Nate Tice. All right, Nate, Giants at 6 here. My opinion, all four of those quarterbacks can be gone before they pick anyway. And I'm not sure they are in the position from a roster standpoint to trade a bunch of high picks to move up and get one of these guys, unless it's Drake May or Caleb Williams. And that second one's not going to happen, right? So that's just the way I feel about it. You have those three wide receivers sitting there. Are you good with any of those guys? Because to me, they could be the best receiver in any wide receiver draft in the last 10 years. Only, Julio, Calvin, probably not to that level, but darn close, right with Jamar Chase level type of player. Are you good with any of those three guys? And in terms of when the Giants get there at 6?
I am. I think Harrison Jr. and Dunze could go to any team, any situation, any scheme, any role and succeed. Neighbors has a little blemish there where I'm like, I just want to make sure he gets to the right spot, but I still think his talents and his upside are as high as anyone. The one thing with Neighbors is he operates in college. He's operated over in the slot more than half the time. we're talking about the Giants. They've created the whole plane of slot receivers. So that's one concern I do have is like, not to say he can't play from the outside. I just think that he's actually, I was looking at some stats on it, is actually he was pretty dominant from the outside. But it's one of those where it's like, can you make a living out there? Because if you can't, then that turns into a whole new issue, yada, yada, yada.
It's funny. I've been saying this. I like Neighbors better as a player, but I think Odunze is an actual better fit with Hyatt and Robinson.
That's it. It's because Nduze, I could see Nduze living on the outside and being fine no matter. I could see Nduze doing any role. That's why I like him so much. It's like maybe he doesn't have Neighbors as upside, but I still think he has a high ceiling. Like I've been calling him supercharged Chris Godwin. Daniel Jeremiah calls him Larry Fitzgerald clone. It's like that's some high praise.
He's
and
good at everything. He really doesn't have much of, maybe one-on-one press. Does he separate quite enough? But he separates enough for him to make the catch.
Yeah, because he's so strong and he's so fluid. He's just so clean. You don't watch a lot of guys that are this clean at receiver. Harrison Jr. is too. Harrison Jr. is even better, which is insane to me. But Neighbors. But that's the thing is I have Neighbors as I think my 8th overall prospect. Like I'm not like I have some negatives, but this guy's 9th. But he's a blue chip guy. I know some are higher. I just have a couple concerns. But the thing is, he flashes enough of the stuff that I maybe have a little negatives on that I'm not. It's not like a full-on red alarm bell. He can't do it. It's just that it's a question mark until I can see him do it in the pros. I think he can, but those 3 guys, man, are just, it's like, if you need a receiver and you're in the top 10, it's like, yeah, kind of take them because I think they're blue chip.
I'm with you. Who else would you, or anyone else in this class, would you put in that conversation for the Giants? I know you're a big Brock Bowers guy. I'm not sure I can do him over one of those 3 guys. Or would you put one of the tackles up there, given what the Giants situation is at this point?
I've started to go like, man, can the Giants trade back to like 11 or something like that and take a tackle? That would make it a little more like I would understand that a little more because the Evan Neal thing, I'm still trying to figure out. Giants are loyal. Like even if they have new stuff, they'll be loyal to like their draft pick.
Well, the problem is that he's only played 22 games, including the playoff games. He's barely played more than a season. He's been hurt
and corrective lenses. Was another thing. He has experience, I think, playing guard, even if he'd be the world's biggest guard in the world. But
I think his first year at Alabama, he played inside a little bit.
Guard, right? Yeah, that's what I remember. I remember talking to Brandon Thorne about that. But what I look is like if they can get back into those early teen spots, like there's so many linemen I like even more for their setup. Troy Fatanu. I'm sorry. I'm going to keep correcting myself on that.
I was actually going to go out of my way not to make you say Fatanu or Suamatia. I've
got him.
You did it to yourself. Kingsley it's not my fault.
He's Kingsley now for me, okay. But Suamatatia. I've gotten that one down because if I like the player, I'll learn your name. That's what I've said on our show. If I like you, I'll learn your name. If I don't, it's Skronik from the Rams. I called him Skarsgård for 3 years, and then finally, Robert gave me a chance to say his name correctly, and I butchered it. And I was like, he's a role player. He's Skarsgård. That's what he is. Like, get in a Pro Bowl and I'll learn your name. But no, these that's funny. Last year I learned a lot of lessons. I learned how to really pronunciate certain like Nigerian descent. Like I really learned how to actually pronounce their names correctly. Actually, so some of these negatives have been some growth for me because. Trust me, you get plenty of comments going like, how'd you get that out of that? And it's like, I don't know, man. I don't know. I promise I read. But anyways, my sister was the English major. I was like econ math guy. So, but yeah, anyways, getting back to the offensive line, the math movers. Fatanu is one because I think he could stay at tackle, but I also think he could be a Pro Bowl guard or center. And for a team like the Giants, where it's like, okay, we got left tackle and we got a star at left tackle. We got to figure out the rest of the spots. That's a perfect kind of guy you want. All right, now we get our best 5 out there. Does he beat out Evan at right tackle and move Evan to guard? Hey, Evan had a really good camp. We can keep him at tackle. Shoot. Now Troy's at guard. That to me is team building. That is, you are getting true good players at an important position.
And I think they tried to do that in a smaller way with the Illuminor signing, right? Where he's kind of like the backstop at tackle. Okay, you got to slide him in the guard.
Just in case.
Sure, that's fine.
Yep. And that's kind of the meta right now for offensive line building. Yes, you want your ideal left tackle, but for me, it's like the other 4. Just like get these guys that can play. But look at the Packers. the Packers they get these third, fourth rounders. Is he a tackle? Is he guard? They're like, we like his traits, get him on the team.
Right.
And now when the guy gets hurt, they're not decimated. They actually can just okay, we'll plug this guy because he was a guard as a junior in college. So it's not like we're throwing him into the deep end, but like, this is what the good teams do.
Like Zach Tom, right? Like Zach Tom moves all over that line.
That's exactly what I'm thinking of when I say that. And Jenkins is another, Elgin Jenkins, who's another guy. I mean, shoot, even they for years would just take left tackles and then move them across the they go, we'll take this left tackle. He's now our center because they want athletic guys. Now it seems to me, to go for more versatile type guys, which I like. I all about. But that's a guy to me that's, because if you go to Alt or Fashanu, those guys are tackles and true left tackles. I don't think the Giants need one. And now you're saying, okay, now we're bumping them to right side. I think they both are athletic enough to play right side, but now we're moving Neal to guard. And that's a lot of movement for me for such a high pick I do think it's not a bad answer, but it's just a lot of work to get to there as far as a clean fit. You can do it, but are you robbing Peter to pay Paul kind of thing? But that, I don't know why I said that right now, but it worked. But I think, so offensive line for there, I'm trying to just think like JC Latham. I think him as a tackle, even though he looks like a guard, I think he's a good tackle.
Same thing with Fuanga, right? I think Latham and Fuanga are similar. They both look like guards, but they're good at tackle,
good tackles. Those two are another good ones. But again, if Neal can stay a tackle, that's great. If you want to bump him a guard, that's not a bad answer for me, finding that. But Amarius Mims is a tackle only. Graham Barton is another one that I won't shut up about him on our phone, on our pod. Oh my God. That's just because of the structure of the thing we did. We started at 32, which is the Barton range. So I just kept going. Yeah, this guy might be there. And it just became a bit like Graham Barton rocks. He's a left tackle, a Duke. I think he can stay a tackle, but I think that guy is a Pro Bowler, a guard, or right tackle, or
Nate,
center.
For me, I cannot wait to see for every NFL team to draft Graham Barton or Cooper DeJean. I think
that's what should go.
Happen. I think it's going to be great.
I know. Just clone him. It should be good. DeJean better test well. Otherwise, I'm ruined. Otherwise, I talked about him way too much. I've tried to temper my takes on him a little bit until he tests. He should test well. I think
he should test well. I think you'll be okay there.
He's a freak. I think so too. I know. It's the thing with when you watch an Iowa defensive tape, it's the most boring thing you'll ever watch because they're really sound. They're really sound. They don't blitz much. They run the same coverages like every snap. And then you watch it, and then DeJean never gets targeted. So you just watch. All of your takeaways from him are just watching him move, and you're like, "Yep, that's a good athlete." Yeah, ooh, good ball recognition there. Ball's going on the opposite side. It's like that's all you could do. It's like I don't know what everyone's like. He's gonna be a safety. I'm like, what tackle like made you say that? I don't know. I was like that's why I think the typecasting's happening. I haven't seen him come up and close or anything like that. But anyways,
that is definitely typecasting. There's no question about it.
So bad. He's a corner. And it's like, yeah, I think he could play safety because of his body type and everything, and he's strong. But it's like he's a corner. Look at him move. He's a man corner. I don't know. So offensive line for me. I keep going off a side rant and then get back to the offensive line. Offensive line to me is that sweet spot's that early teens. If I were the Giants, I think 6 is a little rich for what they need because it's a good problem because they have Andrew Thomas, but they have the other spots that they're trying to figure out.
I agree with you. Now, for the folks that don't know, Nate's dad, Mike, was a coach, obviously big offensive line. So you're very into the offensive line. So yes. I'm going to ask you this. When I do these evaluations, and I've learned from Shona O'Hara and David Deal here, I'm close with those guys. Great. They've kind of taught me a lot of the techniques to watch for and stuff like that.
Good ones
for
to
you,
learn from.
What's the most important thing an offensive lineman can do well in college? And what are the things that you think they can develop and get better at? Because like guys like Tyler Guyton, right? Great athlete. His hand placement stinks. His hands are outside all the time. It's awful. Can that get fixed? What are the most important traits that you think are integral and you can't fix? And what are the things you think you can fix when you get to the NFL level from a coaching standpoint?
The number one thing for me is the ability to recover. And this is straight learning from my dad. Is it could be a different type. It could be the long athletic freak, and they can do things that guys can't do, with their hands and their length and their footwork and their ability to cross over but stay balanced. It's when they lose, are they able to make the play? It's not making the play negative.
Don't fall down, basically.
Don't fall down. Don't trip over yourself. Don't get, okay, the guy beat me outside, so I'm going to cross over and overstep, and the guy then beats me inside, and then it's a clean sack in 2 seconds or less. The play can't even get off. So that ability to recover. But guys, we usually just think about the athletic freaks of the world, but guys that are bad body types that are not or not the best athletes. Deion Dawkins is a fantastic example of this. Bad body, not the greatest athlete of all time, but his hands are strong, his hands are tight and good, and he can kind of just use that strength, use that weird athleticism he has to kind of always just stay in line, just always stay and not lose. And that is just something I just look at all the time. And kind of on the run game version of that is, again, ability to recover. If a guy tries to shake you, can you keep your feet and do not fall down at the end of the play? And Evan Neal, and this is why I was a little lower on Evan Neal than other people, was that he fell down a lot. He would finish a block, whistle blows, and he falls over.
No, I thought
And
I thought his college tape you said that more in the run game. I thought his pass protection was okay, but I think you did see it a little bit in the run game. Which, as a guy who was still learning, then I watched most of his pass pro, and I'm like, oh, this is really good, and I missed that part in some of the run game stuff.
And that's what showed up to me. Trevor Penning was another culprit of that, and that's where. And this is not me observing this. This is my dad just kind of going like, hey, this is what I look for, and I'm like, okay, sounds good.
And by the way, the weird thing to me, Fashanu is on the ground a lot in the run game, which to me is weird given how graceful he is in pass protection.
And everything he does. And even his first 2 steps in a run game are great. And then it's just everything after that.
He leans and he tumbles.
And that's, to me, the hand thing, I haven't figured out whether I hate that or like if that's a huge negative red flag. Like, I just don't know. It's such an outlier. Yeah. But is that where it shows up? Because his lack of hand size doesn't let him keep that grip. Like, this is theory. I'm just trying, maybe that's where it comes up, because I'm like, man, he gets good pop. He moves well. He's balanced. And also he just falls over. It's like, what? But again, you have to figure out, usually it's a huge negative if the guy's a bad athlete or an athlete that doesn't play to his testing, which is where you'll see up. So those would be red flags for me if I just see it over and over and over. And maybe I'll just kind of keep the top off. And that's actually funny you say that, is why Alt has ended up being my tackle 1. Even though, man, it's like Shanu is just like Fashanu, whatever you want to say. But I've liked him since day one. I almost said some outlandish things this last summer. I was like, holy, is this guy gonna be like Orlando Pace? He got hurt this year, and so that's why the second half of the year you kind of throw out. The Ohio State game, he's wearing a knee sleeve, and he's awful in that game. But then there's other games where it's like, oh, okay, Illinois game early in the season. He had another one in September. Iowa, he looks pretty good in that game too. But no, that's why I dinged him. It's the exact same thing you say. Is that lack of that last second in the run game is kind of just a little worrisome for a guy that you're taking top 10. You want these guys to be clean. And I know there's no perfect prospect, but you want these guys the blemishes should not be big red alerts. It should be like, okay, we can fix that. And speaking of the second half of your question, this hand usage is what I think you can fix. That's the number one thing, is hands. And I think a lot of college coaches, and good or bad, is that they don't really focus on that. And a lot of guys they clamp over. They clamp over like that, and they're going to get called for holding all the time in the NFL, or get knocked off by really good defensive players. So hand usage is the number one thing. Number one thing I see get worked on. And also just learning protections is another thing. His eyes is, a lot of these guys are not taught a lot. They're not taught a lot about drop back protection, slides, and when you have to 4-man slide, and when you're pointing stuff out, what the communications for all that. So
Tuamatia, I think, is a big one with that. He lets guys run inside of him all the time on some of those plays. I'm like, what, dude, why are you letting him go?
Dude, college line play will make you sad. It makes college line play and college linebacker play. It makes you real, and college quarterback play too. It makes you really sad. The only thing I usually get a joy out of watching college is watching college running backs just go off like that. That's a lot of fun. But when you get spoiled on NFL film, you start seeing like some college line play happening. You're like, that's lazy. That is not what you should be doing, and it happens all the time.
Giant fans love a winner. It's why they love Citizens, named a 2022 Best Bank in the U.S. by The Banker as the official bank of the Giants and sponsor of the Huddle. Citizens is made ready for fans of Big Blue. Learn more at citizensbank.com. All right, Nate, let's get to some day 2 guys here. If you don't mind, we'll go about 5-6 minutes late. Is that all right?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, perfect. No problem. I know
I've never gone under.
I know you and Robert are used to going longer.
I've never gone under on a pod. I am if you ever bet over under on me on a pod, over. Hardest over you can ever bet, ever. I'm the opposite of a Service Academy game. Service Academy game, you always bet the under. Nate Tice pod appearance, you always bet the over. It's the easiest one you could ever make.
Oh, I love it. All right. So let's stick with the offensive line. Day two
Yeah.
guards. If the Giants want to go
Oh.
there, they're kind of protecting themselves with tackle with the Luminor. Maybe they want to add to Runyon. They want the long-term answer, either left guard or right guard. Who are some of the day two guards? And I know you're going to start with the UConn one. That you really like.
You set me up here because that's the exact range where I'd love for him to go. Christian Haynes from UConn. Yes, let's just start with him. Big fan of this guy. He's growing. The hype train's starting to build a little bit for him. I think Charles McDonald, I snuck him into to the Ravens, I think, at our mock.
Ooh, spicy.
Yeah, we snuck it. But yeah, I mean, he tested like a first round athlete. But Christian Haynes, he's 34 on my big board. So I have him, this grade range. He's kind of the best of my second round graded guys. And Haynes to me is a really good athlete, a lot of starts at UConn. I feel like zone running teams or traditional ones, even if a lot of teams aren't heavily zone running right now, is that he's ideal for them. Like he reminds me of Shaq Mason a little bit. That would be my closest comparison. It's like his floor is kind of Laken Tomlinson, and I think his ceiling is Shaq Mason. Like those are the two guys that he reminds me of in certain ways, but a really good athlete, a lot of starts, really good eyes. I would say his number one negative might be his anchor isn't great. I would say it's average. He can get blown back by stronger defensive tackles, but then you see some positives of that is his ability to recover is he can bend. So he gets blown back, and then you see him almost like doing like a clean, like a power clean, like where he tilts and, really gets a guy underneath the guy. So the negatives turn into a positive, but that still is a negative. But man, this guy moves well. His hands are great. It's been a long time since I see a guard that's so good. This is such hipster nerd line. I'm sorry, but you don't see a guard with backside cutoffs as good as him, which is he has a defensive tackle on the inside of him. Dude, you have to beat me for swearing. Sorry.
Basically, all I'm doing is writing down the time codes for my editor. That's exactly
I'm trying to get so much
doing.
better about not swearing, but it just comes out of me.
Okay.
But some people are amazed of how I can turn that switch on and off because my football stuff comes out of me sometimes.
Dude, I work for a team and I grew up in Brooklyn. Trust me, I have to turn that thing off all the time.
My parents are from New York. Like it's just, it comes out of me and then I just switch. And then people go, man, then you get around some suits and it just turns off. I'm like, I don't know, man. I wish I could just, I'm trying to get
the
better.
Game, baby.
Trying to read better. Yeah. To read better. As I said, English, great. I really know it.
You're ready for a change. Payday comes early with Citizens, so go to that retreat. New You moves to the country. Now you're raising goats and launching a lifestyle brand. Are you ready for all that life brings?
But anyways, back to Haynes. Backside cutoffs, which is like where a defensive lineman is on the inside of the guard and
the reach block.
The reach block. Thank you. And he has to cut that block, get across from it, get his head across, which can make or break a run play. That can turn a run play into a 3-yard gain into a 30-yard gain. It's a kind of low-key important block. Zach Martin's probably the best at it right now. Joel Bettino for the Browns, when he was coming out of Nevada, he's probably the best I've ever seen at it as an evaluator. But Haynes is up there. He's one of the best at that. And I know it sounds like a niche thing. It matters. And I think there's going to be coaches that like him. So he's one guy that I watched him. It's like, okay, there's something to you. Then he does a Senior Bowl. He has a pretty good Senior Bowl, but then he tests and he tested like an elite athlete. And it's like one of those where it's like, you're checking all the boxes for me. So he's number one. Zach Frazier, I see from West Virginia. I see as a center only. So I don't see the guard versatility that maybe some others do. So he to me is like, if you need a center, hell yeah. If you don't, off the board. That's how I look at it. If you're picking from 32 to 50 and you need a center, take him. If you don't, you don't even look at him. So don't want to waste a lot of time with him. Jackson Powers Johnson might be in this range because of medicals, might be a little bit higher. But I think he's a weird prospect for me because I see the gifts, I see the movement, I see the size. His medicals aren't great. And also his hand usage has a ways to go. But what do we talk about? That's fixable. Where the Giants are at, do they want kind of more? I would consider more of a project than people have kind of typecasted him as. But his upside is there's not a lot of 330-pound guys that move like this and have a mentality like that. And he's from Oregon, by the way. Trying to be better at that too. Name the school that these guys are from. So JPJ, he's another one, but this might be the tail end of his range, but it still might be his range. And that to me is pretty interesting for the Giants because his upside is he has Pro Bowl upside on the inside, but he's a true inside only type guy or inside offensive lineman type. I have him at center, but I think he could play guard because of his size and movement and toughness and all that. But he's going to be a little bit of work in progress. Who's the line coach for the Giants right now? I totally forgot. I knew Bobby Johnson.
They
was
brought
there.
in Carmen Brasillo from the Raiders, who was under Scarnecchia in
Scarnecchia guy. Yep. He's a Patriots guy. That's right.
Yep.
Okay, so Haynes,
Youngstown
actually.
State, I believe, from college. I think where he originated from. If I'm
so if he's a Scarnecchia guy, those guys are all about hand placement. So Haynes, Haynes might be exactly who they're looking at. Another one, Cooper Beebe, from Kansas State.
I like him.
Yeah, I do too. Weird body, shortest arms you'll ever see. Built like SpongeBob SquarePants.
He's a fire hydrant, man. That's what he is.
He is. But his testing didn't make sense. And then you watch it. He's a good athlete. He's weird. He's just a weirdly built dude. But he's tough. He's got good hands. He just makes it work. And he's a good athlete. I like him. I think he's getting some looks at center as well, getting some work there. But just an inside interior guy, swing guy. I like him especially where the Giants are, maybe a little later than that, maybe an early third, but I think he'll go before that. I think the late second's kind of a sweet spot. But those two are the ones I would kind of highlight the most. Like Dominic Pooney from Kansas. I watched him, didn't like him as much as I thought I would. I look at him as like a late third, early fourth type.
I feel like he needs to beef up a little bit if he wants to be a guard full time.
Yeah, and also I thought he'd be a better athlete when I was watching him. Oh, you play tackle, you hear it, and like some of it's good, but then I don't know. He was different than what I was expecting. I thought they're just like his movement and like he wasn't as good of an athlete, and it's like, but he also needs size. So it's like, all right, we gotta get one of them. Get quicker or get bigger.
Yeah, as a day 3 guy, I actually like Isaiah Adams out of Illinois. I thought he was actually pretty good at the Senior Bowl. I was impressed by him down there.
Him and Mahogany from Boston College. Those guys are kind of having that late third, early fourth tier too. Those are other ones. Cedric Van Pand, I think he's a center only from Georgia. Those are other ones that I have. Zach Zinter from Michigan is a day 3 guy. He has a ton of injury stuff. So that's a concerns with him. I like him though. I thought going into the process, he was my guard 1. Going into process meaning last August. By default, he was like my guard 1, and kind of others have just leapfrogged him. But I still like him. He has some injury stuff.
All right, 2 more categories I want to hit here. Let's go day 2 corners. The Giants right now basically have 1 starting corner, Deontay Banks. I think you need more than that. If you want to be successful. Now they're going from a press man scheme with Wink to more of a zone off type of.
They went from Wink to everybody else.
Yes, correct. Now you're going to look like the rest of the league. So no, and they have Cordell Flott, who I think can actually be in or outside. He's done both. So you can go outside, you can go slot, and they take it whatever direction you want. Some of the day 2 corners that you think could be a good fit in this Shane Bowen system.
Shoot, and they got Deontay Banks, which is we're happy about that.
Oh, I love Banks. He's great.
He's a baller. Yeah. This is what's gotten cool with some modern defenses, but also what's hard for me to kind of go, what do you like? Is some of these defenses are so hybrid, and I think Bowen kind of is. He has some different influences with his defensive scheme. Yeah. So like, his defensive line had some tweeners on it. So it's like, do you guys like the Saints are easy? Patriots used to be easy. Okay, big guys that push the pocket. Done.
280-pound defensive end drafted.
Yeah, that's it. Long arm. Yeah. Okay. Jaguars, find the guys with the longest arms. Done. Packers, get the receivers over 195 pounds. Done. So like some of these teams, I'm like, I think they want this. I'm not sure. So like corner is so much about flavor. Like the Giants last year taking Deontay Banks made all the sense in the world. Yep. Oh, they love living a man. He's a man corner. Done. Easy length. Okay. All that stuff. And I still think they nailed it. But to me Bowen to me at corner likes feistiness. Like he likes it. So I don't know if size traits matter to him. I don't know. They might. I don't know if speed traits. So if you're looking at the 2nd round, the 3rd round, Ennis Rakestraw from Mizzou, kind of all over the place on big boards. He's dropped a little bit for me because he's smaller and he didn't test great.
Yeah, he didn't run that well.
No, and it's just he's a better football player than he tested. But the realist side of me has to remember what he tested like and what his size is. And I don't know. You've noticed the receivers you have to go against the NFC East. It's not like AJ Brown is small or CeeDee Lamb is not strong, and
Terry McLaurin's no good either, by the way.
Terry McLaurin, yeah, so it's a little. I don't know. I'm trying to figure that one out. But he's one on day 2. It's like one of those. I have to be realistic. If you take him in round 3, good. If you're taking him in round 2,
Yeah, but he ain't going to be there in round 3. So.
no, he looks like a late round 2 guy. So he has to be that right sweet spot. Kamari Lassiter from Georgia. I've gone back and forth on, but he again might be a sweet spot where it's a little later than early round 2. Might be early round 3. He might be a mid-late round 2 guy. Guys are all over the place with him. I've seen some people that consider him borderline first round. I've seen some people that consider him late day 2.
Of course, and did he run a 4.53 or did he run a 4.62?
Dude,
people
oh my
that
God, no one
swear
knows.
to God that it's both of those numbers. I don't know who to believe.
Dane, I always just trust Dane. Dane has
4.6. I know.
Done. And I'm with Dane. Dane has no reason to lie. And that's what's
Dane's the best.
Awesome about Dane. We don't get a lot of Danes in media. We don't get a lot of Danes. They're in wrestling. He's a worker. Wait, I mean, that's not a good way to put it. He's a guy that's just like, he's going to make the other guy look good always. Like Dane. Like he's going to, hey, you want to get your flip in? Yeah, get your flip in. I got you. All right. Yeah, you want to pin me or good? All right. Now Dane's the best teammate ever and the best at this, I think, ever. Like he's just so good, so knowledgeable. So when he told me it was a slow time, yeah, I'm gonna believe him. Other corners that we have. All right. So Kalen King, he's more of a round 3 guy to me. I think Kalen King though needs to go to like Patrick Graham with the Raiders. Some that runs a little bit. Oh, Patrick Graham, former Giants. But a little more cover 2 heavy, a little more, that traditional true zone heavy. Marvin Harrison Jr. knocked his draft stock down 2 rounds in 1 game. So poor Kalen King goes, I want to match up with him, and just got absolutely
And by
shredded.
the way, I loved him last summer. I thought he was a late first round pick on my summer scouting. And then this year, it was just a rough year.
Rough year. He has to be, that defense was not conducive for him. Again, corners are about flavor. He is not a man corner. He is a zone only corner like that. I think he has good eyes. I actually have talked about maybe shifting him to safety and looking at that because I do like some of the physicalness and I like his eyes. It's just that some guys just don't have the gifts to take advantage of those eyes. And I think Kalen falls in that category. But if you're talking round 3, this is the type of guys that usually are there in round 3 or round 4 even. TJ Tampa from Iowa State.
Big guy.
Very fitting name because another guy that I think would be good in a Tampa 2 scheme. But I also think he would actually match Bone likes a lot of quarter stuff. I actually think he'd be okay with that, especially different type of player than Banks. So I actually kind of like that, having kind of like a different type that you can throw at receivers if you're going to do kind of things. So he's in the day 2 corners are kind of, again, you get into flavors. Nate Wiggins might be there early round 2, but because he tested at 180, he's 180 pounds, give or take. I like his film a lot.
Oh, it's
he's just so skinny. And then that's just, and I watched what happened to Emmanuel Forbes last year, and that's not going to get out of my brain, but I really like Wiggins's film. He might go middle round 1, but he might fall to early round 2. So that would be, if Nate Wiggins is there and they want to take a corner, he would be the one, or Kool-Aid McKinstry is another one too.
Perfect. All right. So we got about 3 minutes here, Nate. We got 2 more things I want to hit real quick. Favorite running backs in the draft. The Giants might need one. Let's take round 2 out of this. Starting, top round 3 or top around 4. Give me 2 or 3 guys that you think would be good fits for what the Giants like to do offensively, or Brian Dable.
Oh man, Mr. Dable. He wants his guys to catch the pass a little bit. I can't believe Singletary's back with him. I think that's so funny. But we're talking round 3. Trey Benson might be already gone. He's my running back 1. I'm not as concerned about the medicals as I was before. He's so explosive, but he might be gone before that.
My thing with him, he only carried him more than 15 times in a game 3 times this year. It's weird.
Yeah, it is weird. I know that to me is like, I'd rather him go like the Chiefs, it's not like a real good, no offense to the Giants fans, but a team that's already set up and like just kind of needs another guy just to take some dozen touches. As
his
opposed
speed
to
and big playability with the Chiefs would be ridiculous. But.
And he can catch it pretty well. And it's like, yeah, I know he's one. Audric Estime might be there. I didn't believe his 40 time at the combine, and then he tested a lot better at a pro day.
I like his tape. I think his tape.
I like his tape. I like his tape a lot. He's got size. I think he could eat touches. He's another guy that was in a big rotation back, but you could see the talent all the time. Plays faster than he tested. I just like him. I like his vision. He's a little bit of a bouncer where he'll look to go outside a little bit. He's a finesse guy in a big body, which is fine. It's just that you have to be realistic about it. Don't use him like freaking Derrick Henry. Use him in a different way, but I like him. He's my running back 2 at this point in time, but I think this is the range that he's going to be looked at. Jonathan Brooks from Texas, another kind of 3-down potential running back. His size, he doesn't break the 200-pound threshold. He's also coming off an injury, but he does a lot of things well. And I think Dable likes that. I think everyone does. Every coach wants a 3-down running back, but he has the potential of that. If they're looking for a guy that's going to eat some carries, though, that's from my Badger alum, and that's Braylon Allen from Wisconsin. Super young, got pretty light feet for his big size, but he's just kind of it's either you like him or you don't. And I understand that people like him. I think his vision's better than people have given him credit for. He kept not testing. I'm like, come on, Braylon, you got to run. Let's see you run, bud. But I like him. I was trying to temper my Wisconsin bias, and I always thought of him as like, he never put it over the top where he had that true where it was like extended play where he's like looking like that next Wisconsin dude. But I think he's actually kind of gone underrated in the process. If you're looking day 3, Blake Corum, another kind of nice back, does a lot of things well. Undersized. I don't know what his hands are because he didn't get a lot of usage there, but he grew on me as I watched him. He's got good vision and everything. He's just undersized and everything. And the last one would be Bucky Irving, another undersized running back. I like him. I've kind of compared him to Kyron Williams from the Rams, where he's smaller, doesn't test well. But how was the play, Mrs. Lincoln? But actually, his vision and how he plays the running back position is really good. He has great shoulders and good vision and can handle all the different run concepts. He's good in protection. He's got good hands. So on day 3, I'm more than comfortable with that. Round 3, but I think he's a nice piece. And the last one I'll bring up is Marshawn Lloyd from USC, another guy I look at in round 4-ish. But again, maybe a 3-down potential type back.
All right, 30 seconds here, Nate. When should the first safety get picked, and who should it be?
Not until after pick 40. My guy is Malik Mustafa from Wake Forest. He's a poor man's Buda Baker, and that I really like him. And I'm kind of looking around, hoping others would jump on the bandwagon because I feel like I'm on an island. He's shorter, but he's got good size. It's like 210. Great tackler, best tackling DB in the draft. Understands the game and everything. Better athlete than I think he's been getting credit for. Would not take him till after pick 40. so anything after pick 40, I'm comfortable with. If you take a safety before pick 40, I'm going to be hitting up your blogger and start local blogger, local team affiliate, and saying, what are you guys thinking about there? What did he show that you're going to take him at pick 31 or 35?
All right, Nate, tell the folks where they can find all your work before we say goodbye.
Mostly Twitter, Nate_Tice. You'll see stupid memes, maybe some football X's and O's every once in a while, some wrestling references that no one gets. A lot of alpaca gifts and everything like that. Wolfpack NWO. Also Yahoo. You can find my writings there, and then mostly you hear me at the Athletic Football Show with Robert Mays. And now we have Dane Brugler on. We'll be rolling to the draft, and we'll have a live draft show on YouTube at the end of the month. So.
Guys, make sure you go check out the Athletic Football Show. It's wonderful. Nate, great stuff. This was a lot of fun, man. It was good talking some shop with you for the last 45 minutes or so, and let's do it again soon, all right?
I'm surprised he didn't say an hour and 45, but thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right, that's Nate Tice from the Athletic Yahoo Sports. Thanks for joining us on the Giants Huddle podcast. We'll see you next time, everybody.